The bedroom light is still on, a soft yellow circle resting against the wall long after the rest of the house has quieted down. The keys sit near the edge of the nightstand, metal touching wood, carrying the faint chill of the outside air and a trace of distant traffic still passing below. In the bathroom, the mirror holds a blurred reflection under the same dim light, as if the day has not fully stepped away, and somewhere beyond the closed window, a car moves slowly through the street without hurry. The room does not ask for anything more than this moment, where the air feels settled, the small sounds stretch thin, and the keys remain where they were placed, waiting to be picked up again tomorrow and quietly plugged back into their place, as the charger waits nearby. The bedroom light hums softly against the ceiling, not bright enough to wake anyone, only enough to keep the room from disappearing completely. The keys rest beside the bed, their edges catching a faint line of yellow, as if they, too, are still halfway outside, carrying the echo of distant traffic that drifts up from the street. In the bathroom, the mirror holds a quiet version of the room behind you, and the hallway beyond the door feels like a thin pause between what has already been done and what is still waiting tomorrow. The air moves gently through the open window, bringing the low, steady sound of cars passing somewhere far enough not to matter, but close enough to remind you that the world continues even when this small space has slowed down. Earlier, those same keys had turned in the front door, metal meeting metal with a familiar click that did not need attention. Shoes were left near the wall. The bathroom light flickered on for a moment, and the mirror caught a tired face without asking questions, only reflecting the simple fact of being here, under the same ceiling, in the same room that has held so many endings of days before. The sound of distant traffic felt louder then, mixed with the small shifts of the house settling, as if everything were adjusting to your return. The bedroom is never completely silent. Fabric brushes against fabric. The window glass gives a soft tick as the night air cools. From the bathroom, a faint trace of moisture still lingers on the mirror, where warm water ran not long ago, and the light above it has been left dim, almost as if it knows it will be needed again soon. The keys have not moved. They lie flat, unhurried, their weight steady and unchanged from morning to evening. Sometimes the roll of the day stretches longer than the daylight itself. Even after the door has closed and the hallway has gone dark, there is a sense of carrying something invisible across the threshold into this room, placing it down beside the bed without fully seeing it. The mirror does not hold that weight. It only holds light and shadow. The distant traffic continues its thin murmur, like a reminder that every house on this street is also holding its own quiet endings. There are small routines that ask for nothing dramatic. Washing hands at the sink. Turning the faucet off. Letting the towel rest back on its hook. The bathroom floor feels cool under bare feet, a simple contact that belongs only to this hour, and the bedroom light keeps its circle steady while the rest of the house slips deeper into stillness. The keys remain within reach, not as a task, not as a demand, but simply as proof that you arrived and that tomorrow will begin again in its ordinary way. It is not always easy to know where the day ends. The mirror reflects the same face whether it is morning or night. The bedroom light does not change its tone because the hours have grown heavy. And the distant traffic does not pause out of courtesy for the rolls that have been carried since sunrise. Yet in this room, there is a slight shift that happens almost unnoticed, a loosening in the shoulders, a breath that lingers a second longer than before. The keys, cool and small, are picked up for a moment, turned between fingers, and set back down. They do not ask to be more than they are. They have opened doors and closed them, waited in pockets, rested on counters, and now they rest here, under the quiet yellow light that does not hurry you toward sleep or toward anything at all. The sound outside grows thinner as the hour moves on, and the mirror in the bathroom reflects only dim shapes now, the edges softening as the light lowers further. In this room, with its steady glow and its faint sounds from beyond the walls, the day is not solved or concluded. It simply becomes smaller. The keys are placed closer to the charger waiting on the nightstand, the cord lying still beside them, and with a small, unceremonious movement, you plug in the charger. The bathroom light stays on a little longer than necessary, casting a pale reflection across the mirror that has already begun to clear. The keys are still on the nightstand, their edges catching the same dim glow, while outside the window the distant traffic moves in an unbroken line, steady and indifferent to how late it has become. The house has settled into its quieter sounds now, the refrigerator humming faintly somewhere down the hall, the floorboards cooling under the weight of the night. In this small space between the bathroom and the bed, there is no announcement that the day has ended, only a gradual softening that happens while no one is looking directly at it. The mirror shows the familiar outline of shoulders, the slight curve forward that comes from carrying many small responsibilities without counting them. It does not hold the voices from earlier conversations or the unfinished thoughts that drifted through the afternoon. It simply reflects the dim yellow light and the stillness behind you. The keys remain untouched, close enough to hear if they were to slide against wood, but they stay quiet, as if aware that there is nothing left to unlock tonight. The sound of distant traffic filters through the glass again, thinner now, like a thread pulled carefully across the dark. It is not loud enough to interrupt anything. It only reminds the room that the world beyond these walls continues to move, even when this bedroom has chosen to slow down. The bathroom door stands half open, and the air inside carries a faint coolness from the tiles that have not yet lost the memory of running water. There were other rooms earlier, brighter lights, more voices. The keys had rested in a pocket, pressed against fabric as you moved from place to place, opening one door, closing another, answering small requests without needing to think too much about them. Now they lie flat, their simple weight enough. They do not carry urgency here. They are only part of the quiet arrangement on the nightstand, beside the charger that waits without impatience. The bedroom light feels softer as the minutes pass. Shadows grow longer along the edge of the wardrobe. The mirror in the bathroom reflects less detail, only shapes and color, as if it, too, is preparing to rest. A hand reaches for the sink faucet, turning it briefly to rinse away the last trace of toothpaste, and the sound of water fades quickly back into silence. The distant traffic continues its slow rhythm, far enough away that it blends into the night. It is easy to think that roles belong only to the daylight hours. Yet even here, in this quiet room, there are small gestures that continue out of habit. Checking the window latch. Straightening the edge of the blanket. Moving the keys slightly so they will not fall. None of these actions ask for applause or recognition. They are simply part of the way the evening folds itself inward. The mirror catches one last glance before the light shifts. Not searching. Just noticing. The face there is neither earlier nor later than it should be. It is simply here, under this dim yellow glow, with the sound of a car passing slowly in the distance. The keys are lifted once, then set back down in the same place, their metal cool against fingertips that have spent the day in motion. The charger cord rests beside them, curved gently like a quiet line waiting to be completed. There is no rush in the movement that follows. The room does not demand speed. The air remains steady, the traffic thins further, and with a small, ordinary gesture, you plug in the charger. The bedroom light is dimmer now, a quiet pool of yellow that barely reaches the far corner of the room. The keys lie close to the edge of the nightstand, their outlines softened by shadow, while the distant traffic continues its low murmur beyond the window. The bathroom mirror reflects only a faint shape, as if it has decided to hold less detail tonight. The house feels deeper, as though the walls themselves have leaned back slightly to rest. There is a moment when nothing new is added to the day. No messages arrive. No doors open. The keys do not move. They simply stay where they were set down, small and ordinary, beside the charger that waits without urgency. The sound of a car passing below rises and falls like a breath that does not belong to this room. In the bathroom, the air is cooler against the skin. The tiles hold a quiet firmness under bare feet, and the mirror no longer demands attention. It returns only what is placed before it: a dim light, a still figure, the edge of a doorway. The distant traffic thins further, stretching into longer pauses between each passing sound. Earlier, there were voices, tasks, small interruptions that asked for quick answers. Here, the questions are fewer. The bedroom light does not ask for explanations. It simply stays on, steady and contained. The keys remain a reminder of movement that has already happened, of doors that have opened and closed without ceremony. Sometimes the weight of a role is not loud. It is subtle, woven into the way the shoulders hold themselves even when no one is watching. The mirror does not comment on this. It reflects a softened outline, a presence that is no longer performing for anyone. The distant traffic continues, but it feels farther away now, as if it belongs to another layer of the night. The bed waits without impatience. Fabric shifts quietly when touched, a small rustle that belongs only to this room. The keys are nudged slightly to make space for a glass of water, then left again, their metal cool and uncomplaining. The charger cord rests nearby, curved gently along the wood. In this slower hour, the day does not need to be reviewed. It settles on its own. The bathroom light is turned lower, and the mirror fades into a darker square, holding only a hint of reflection. The distant traffic becomes a thin line of sound, barely noticeable unless you listen for it. There is a simple gratitude in this narrowing of space. Not the kind that announces itself, but the quiet kind that appears when nothing else is required. The bedroom light hums softly. The keys remain within reach. The world beyond the window continues to move, yet this room has chosen to be still. A hand reaches toward the nightstand, fingers brushing against metal before finding the cord. The movement is small, almost automatic, yet it carries a certain steadiness. The keys shift a fraction of an inch, then settle again. The charger is lifted, aligned without haste, and with a gentle, practiced motion, you plug in the charger. The bathroom light is almost the only light left in the apartment now, a thin yellow line slipping through the half-open door and resting on the bedroom floor. The keys remain where they were, their shape barely visible in the dimness, while outside the window the distant traffic stretches into longer spaces of quiet between each passing car. The mirror holds a faint, softened reflection, as if it no longer needs to be clear. The room feels smaller in a gentle way, not confined, just gathered inward. There is water in the sink again, a brief turning of the tap that fills the space with a low, steady sound before fading back into stillness. The mirror fogs slightly at the edges, blurring what it reflects, and for a moment there is nothing sharp or demanding in the glass. The keys do not move. They lie still beside the charger, metal cool against the wood. The day has already loosened its grip. What remains are small gestures that do not belong to any audience. A towel lifted. A light touch against the counter. The distant traffic hums in the background, no longer distinct, only a reminder that somewhere beyond this building, headlights pass under street lamps one by one. In the bedroom, the bedspread shifts with a quiet rustle. Fabric against fabric. The keys are nudged slightly to keep them from slipping too close to the edge, their weight reassuring in its ordinariness. They have unlocked doors, weighted in pockets, rested in bowls by the entrance. Now they rest here, near the place where the night slows everything down. The mirror in the bathroom reflects a dim outline as the light above it lowers further. The face it holds is unguarded, not because it tries to be, but because there is no one left to perform for. The distant traffic sounds softer than before, as if wrapped in a layer of night air that carries it gently past the window. Sometimes the roll that never seems to end becomes quieter instead of disappearing. It softens at the edges. It folds into routine movements that require no applause. The keys are lifted for a second, turned absent-mindedly between fingers, then set back down in nearly the same place. They make a small sound against the wood, barely louder than the hum from outside. The charger cord rests close by, its tip waiting without insistence. The bedroom light flickers once as the switch is adjusted, and the room dims further, settling into a deeper shade of yellow. In the bathroom, the tap is turned off completely, and the last thin line of water disappears into silence. There is a pause in the traffic now. A longer one. The kind that makes the night feel wide and open. The mirror holds only shadow. The keys are steady, their simple presence enough to mark the boundary between today and tomorrow. A hand reaches across the nightstand again, brushing lightly over metal before finding the familiar shape of the cord. The movement is slow, without urgency. The keys shift slightly, then come to rest. The charger is guided toward its place, and with a small, practiced motion, you plug in the charger. The bedroom light has been lowered to its softest setting, a quiet circle that barely reaches the doorframe. The keys rest close to the charger now, their metal surface dulled by shadow, while the distant traffic outside moves in longer, slower intervals. The bathroom mirror reflects almost nothing, only a pale suggestion of light and the outline of the doorway. The room feels as though it has exhaled. There are no more tasks waiting in this hour. The sink is dry. The towel hangs straight. The mirror does not ask for another look. The keys lie still, not demanding to be carried, not needing to open anything else tonight. The sound of a car passes far below, softened by distance and by the late hour. It is in this narrowing of activity that something subtle becomes visible. Not a solution. Not a conclusion. Just the simple fact of being present in a room that has held many evenings like this before. The bedroom light does not change its tone because the day felt long. It remains steady, indifferent and kind in the same way. The keys have been part of every departure and every return. They have waited in pockets while conversations unfolded, while work stretched past its expected hour, while responsibilities lined up quietly in the background. Now they are motionless, resting beside the charger, as if they too have stepped out of their role for a while. The distant traffic thins further, the pauses between each passing sound growing wider. In the bathroom, the mirror is only a dark square now. It reflects light without detail. The floor tiles hold a faint coolness underfoot, grounding in their simple firmness. No one is watching. No one is asking for anything. The room carries its own quiet weight without effort. Sometimes the role that never seems to end does not end at all. It only softens. It becomes the way the blanket is pulled up without thinking. The way the keys are moved slightly so they will not fall. The way the charger is kept within reach. These gestures are small and unremarkable, yet they hold the shape of a life lived steadily. The distant traffic returns for a moment, then fades again. It no longer feels like movement that requires attention. It is only part of the night's background, like a low breath that rises and falls. The bedroom light hums faintly, its warmth contained within the walls. A hand reaches toward the keys again, not to leave, not to unlock anything, but simply to feel their cool surface one more time before setting them back down. The metal makes a soft contact with the wood. The charger cord lies beside them, curved and ready, patient in its stillness. There is no need to name what has been carried through the day. It rests here, folded into the quiet of this room, alongside the keys and the dim yellow light. The mirror remains dark. The traffic grows even thinner, almost disappearing into silence. The charger is lifted carefully, its tip guided without haste. The keys shift a fraction as space is made for the movement. There is no urgency in the gesture, no performance in it. Only a small, familiar action that marks the closing of the hour, as you plug in the charger. The bedroom light is almost gone now, reduced to a faint glow that barely outlines the edge of the wardrobe. The keys rest in shadow beside the charger, their shape known more by memory than by sight, while the distant traffic outside has thinned to an occasional whisper. The bathroom mirror reflects only darkness, its surface quiet and uninsistent. The room has settled into a deeper stillness that does not need to announce itself. There is a different kind of silence at this hour. It is not empty. It holds the soft weight of the day without replaying it. The keys do not carry the sound of doors anymore. They are simply small pieces of metal resting on wood, cooled by the night air drifting faintly through the window. The distant traffic passes once, then leaves a longer pause behind. In that pause, the hum of the room becomes clearer. The faint current in the charger. The soft shift of fabric as the body leans back against the pillows. The bathroom, now unlit, feels like a separate space entirely, its mirror holding nothing but a quiet surface. In the darkness, roles blur at the edges. There is no need to be efficient. No need to respond. The bedroom light, though dim, remains steady, as if keeping watch without expectation. The keys stay within reach, not as tools, but as quiet markers of arrival and return. A hand reaches out once more, fingertips brushing lightly against metal. The touch is brief. The keys make the smallest sound as they are moved slightly closer to the charger. Outside, a car passes, its sound rising gently before dissolving into the distance. The room feels narrower now, but not confined. Gathered. The mirror in the bathroom no longer reflects even a faint outline, it has become part of the dark. The air carries a mild coolness that rests easily against the skin. The distant traffic fades further, leaving behind a thin silence that stretches comfortably across the ceiling. There is nothing left to arrange. The blanket lies smooth. The keys are in their place. The charger cord rests curved beside them, its line simple and unbroken. The bedroom light hums softly, holding its last bit of warmth against the walls. In this final quiet, gratitude does not arrive as a word. It feels more like the steadiness of objects that remain where they are placed. The way the room continues to exist without asking for effort. The way the night accepts what has already been done and what has not. The distant traffic returns faintly, then fades again. The keys are lifted just enough to clear a small space. The charger is brought closer, its tip guided without haste. The movement is unremarkable, almost automatic, yet it carries the gentle weight of closing the day in the only way it knows how. The metal meets its place with a small, precise motion. The keys settle back against the wood. The room does not change in response. The night remains steady beyond the window. And in the quiet that follows, you plug in the charger. The bedroom light finally lowers to a softer shade, barely touching the walls. The keys rest beside the charger, quiet and unchanged, while the distant traffic outside moves in a thin, fading line. The bathroom mirror remains dark, no longer holding even a faint outline. The room has gathered everything it needs for the night. There is nothing left to adjust. The blanket lies still. The air feels steady against the skin. The keys no longer suggest departure or return, they are simply part of the nightstand now, small and familiar. Beyond the window, one last car passes slowly, then the street settles again. In this settled hour, the day does not ask to be measured. It has already folded itself into ordinary gestures and quiet corners. The bedroom light hums softly, patient and contained. The charger rests in place, its small current flowing without sound. The keys remain where they were placed. The mirror holds only darkness. The distant traffic grows faint enough to disappear. And the room stays,